Welcome to another Rugby League Down South podcast. On the programme, Tony Ray on the first pre-season run out for the Broncos, Brian McDermott, the Leeds coach, on his time in London, the North HERTS Crusaders head coach Colin Baker on being a Hertsland, and Hampshire Youth Association looking for participants will take the RL temperature in Hampshire. So welcome to Rugby League Down South, then another programme. Just first a little news update really. We talked last week about the Capital Challenge and an injury to Smokey Jr. A match report on the Scholars website on Monday said he was taken to hospital with a suspected broken femur. No particular update on him this week. I know I have had conversations. I have asked about his health and how he's doing. He is being monitored or looked at, and I think if Scholars were to mention his current state, they'd issue something on their website. But our best wishes go to Smokey Jr. suffering a serious accident in the Capital Challenge game, so fingers crossed he can be back on his feet soon, and he'll be a big miss to London Scholars, because I'm sure he's going to miss some of the season at least. So yeah, a big miss will Smokey Jr. be, but as you saw, the dedication and the passion and the commitment in his challenge just last week was extraordinary really. But best wishes to Smokey Jr. Now, I had a quick comment as well. If you want to see the highlights of that game, you can see it on Wigan TV. It is subscription only, but you can, I think, register initially, and you get a free trial. So if you do want to see it, and I couldn't sort of advise you to then cancel your membership, but there is a way around that you could do that. I had a tweet during the week from Leighton O'Connor saying, just watch the London Scholars versus Wigan game. Excellent commentary in Ramsdale, fair play, and not the easiest game to do for me. But Leighton, thank you for your comments. As ever, we'll take your thoughts on anything on Rugby League Down South, anything Rugby League Down South related, on email rldownsouth@gmail.com, or you can tweet at Ian Ramsdale or use the hashtag RLDS. Right then, let's hear from Tony Ray, the Broncos head coach. They started their pre-season at the weekend, losing 16-12 to Catalan Dragons, a narrow defeat. They led for 75 minutes of the game. The highlights are on the Catalans YouTube account if you want to go and have a look. There's a sort of 4 or 5 minutes highlights for you to see there. But I haven't really spoken to Tony Ray, not on record, since everything had gone through, the new deal, the new future, the Barnett links, and I hadn't talked to him in particular in 2014. So his thoughts coming up in just a second. A couple of comments that I had based on the Catalans game. Adam saying, interesting, I have a feeling the team could do a lot better than people expect this year, could throw a spanner in the works. Stefan saying the Catalan score is encouraging, though they can compete. Hopefully Ray brings them together and can instill some real fight. Martin saying on Twitter, at Ian Ramsdale, trouble was we beat them this time last year in a friendly on a brighter note, but we can hope. The first real opportunity, as I said, though, to hear the comments of Tony Ray, and I said after the game I'd try and get his pre-season thoughts in interview form. Greg sending me a message saying I'd prefer it in interpretive dance. I couldn't get Tony Ray to give his thoughts in interpretive dance, but here are his thoughts in audio format from a telephone conversation I had with him earlier on today. It sounds like, and from the short highlights that I saw, a very promising start to your pre-season out in Catalans on Saturday.
Time, so it's a difficult run up to it in many ways, but we really enjoyed that. We very much pulled together nicely on the night. We didn't actually play particularly well. We didn't play badly. We came up with a lot of errors at different times. But the great thing was that we fought our way through those errors, and really fixable errors. A lot of them unforced, so it wasn't like pressure getting to us or lack of direction. It was just probably rustiness early on in the opening part of a pre-season. The wonderful thing for the group was that everyone just worked so hard, and errors didn't even look like errors in the end, because we just had so much endeavour and togetherness and some great teamwork. So it was wonderful like that, great resilience.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like you have pretty much sort of thrown this squad together. Were you surprised by how well they did work together, or is this what you've been aiming for months?
Well, yeah, funny, it was a bit of a blank feeling going in. I thought after, well, I didn't really have any expectations going into that one. I thought in review it was just a matter of fact, we're getting ready, we've trained hard, that was a good session, that was a bad session, let's fix up on that, and we got on a plane, we went to a game, and I just expected us to get a job done when we got on there, and we just went about doing those jobs, and it felt very comfortable. It felt very much like a group of blokes that had a purpose and an intent. So, for all of what's been said, it felt like a football club, a football team, and it felt good.
Are you still looking to add players to your squad? Do you still feel you're weak in areas?
Oh, yeah. We're still, we're probably still 4, maybe 5 off. 3 significant ones, so that's where we're at the moment. We've been talking to people as we go. We're in a position to get going, we just need to polish it a bit.
How hopeful are you that you'll get those 3 crucial ones, or the 4 or 5 that you need by the start of the season, or is this something that you might have to look at sort of loan-wise when the season starts?
A bit of both, who knows, it's a funny market, it's a funny time to be in the market, so it'll be interesting to see how it ends up. I couldn't guess either way, actually, but I am conscious that we will stiffen up certain positions, and I think there are players out there to do it.
Have you been in a situation like this where you've had to recruit a squad under such circumstances? Because I guess most coaches would look at their squad the year before and would try and tie things up at the sort of end of the previous season. But it is a tough job, I guess, coming at it so late.
It's also exciting, you look back, you go brain dead. You'd like to have done it different, but it wasn't the circumstances. They are what they are. We've got hungry people, and we've got determination, and we've got a team that wants to get out there and do things. Look, have I done it before? No, not as late as this. Do you get a bit jumpy? Yeah, at times, but the confidence comes from going and doing the work and watching the players and the staff go about their business and do a terrific job. And as I say, you just look forward to every day.
And I know different managers and coaches of sports clubs look at things differently, but many people are saying it's going to be a tough year for your side. Do you think it's going to be tough yourself?
Oh, I think it's tough for everybody on every year, and I think there's going to be tough bits there, but there's going to be wonderful opportunities inside of every performance. I think we've got to play a certain way and know what we're doing. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to executing things, keeping things really simple but really determined. I'm looking forward to the character inside of us. I'm looking forward to each game. So, I don't think it's a long haul at all. I just think we've had a terrific day today. We've worked on things. We've got great purpose. We're very focused, mate. We're very focused because of where we're at. We realise we've got to be really fine-tuned on what we do. So, it's not daunting. It's just a great opportunity to run straight towards a few challenges that are in front of us. Take them on.
And does it bother you at all that your squad have been written off already?
I haven't read a bit of that. We haven't written ourselves off, and that's probably the most significant way of thinking. Probably understand why people would say that, but it won't influence our thinking.
And you've got a tough game, I guess, on Friday, another friendly at Leeds. They've named a very strong squad, pretty much, one of the strongest that they could name. Will you learn more about your side and where you are on Friday?
Definitely. We'll approach the game. We've shared what we'll do differently. We've got to show... we've physically got to go longer inside of our game compared to the last outing where we had the ability to rotate through interchange. So we're going to put ourselves in a hole. So we're going to feel a few more physical challenges, and to get through those, we're just going to have to really rely heavily on detail. We're really pleased we're up against a really good side, and I'm glad they've named some full strength side, and they're showing the contest the respect we wanted it to. We'll just get in there. We'll get to kick-off. We'll put it downfield and we'll rip in.
And how's Underhill? I wasn't able to get there today to have a bit of a nosy around, but how have you all settled in there?
Well, it's a change up. It's an up in standards. It's an improvement. It's like everything we're doing, It's got real upside. We enjoy going in there every day. We're in control of it. gymnasium's a fantastic setup. The field itself is a real pleasure to be out there on, and there's a real intent when we get there and do our work.
And as a man who I know has London Rugby League very close to his heart, how glad were you that things were sorted out and a future was secured?
Enormously, but not for me, man. We've all got options in life, and we can go off and do something different. But collectively, I believe in London, and I believe that rugby league in London is important. I think that's done now, a bit in the background. The challenge is to be a good London. I think we've really got to strive towards a little bit less euphoria and the fact that we're a bit more. Let's get this thing humming. Let's get it going. Let's get it performing well. Let's set some really good standards and as I say, go to really meet those challenges head on and set some great standards. This club's done for a long, long time. It's never been plain sailing. It's never really been simple. So we've just got to make sure we're really strong in the conditions we're at the moment, and we are doing that. And we need everyone to do it together. We need London behind us. It can't just be a fairy tale and a bunch of words. We just need everybody rocking with us.
And how do you feel about the reintroduction of promotion and relegation at the end of next season? Does it put any extra pressure on your side this year?
I think it's a good thing. The pressure to win's there every time you do anything. Every play and every set of every game, these guys are under pressure. The other bit won't affect relegation or trying to get to the playoffs, or just trying to win that game and win that play of the ball and win that tackle. That's what the nuts and bolts of it. The rest of it's a big theory out there. It won't put us under any pressure at all. We just got to make sure we do things well. That's what'll get us there. I think culturally, everybody in Britain, rugby league's a little bit driven by Australia and influenced by Australia, and where there's no promotion and relegation. I do think in my time up here, I think promotion and relegation's in the fabric of sporting life in England. So, I don't disagree with where it's gone. I think it's probably a very good thing for the game.
And do you think Broncos would survive if they were relegated?
Of course, we never have been. At the moment Super League's come in, we've never been out of the league, so we've shown ourselves an ability to be justifiably inside of it, and we'll show that again this year. Having said that, with any of the teams, anyone in the league and any comp you go into, if the rules are, if you don't get the job done and you get relegated, well, you take your medicine, you go down, you get stronger, you come back up. I watched Harlequins do it in rugby union, and you could have said a big city club, it could have been broken apart. I was around the club at the time. It doesn't break you. It just puts you tighter together. It's just another one, but that won't happen for us.
So those are the thoughts of the London Broncos head coach Tony Ray as head of a trip to Leeds and a friendly on Friday night in Ryan Bailey's testimonial. They've put out a very strong team, have Leeds. It's going to be a very, very tough task for them, a very big challenge, not just of their skills, but also of their mental strength, really, and their capacity to deal with the game on Friday. And it's going to be an intriguing contest, and it'll be interesting to see how the side come out of it, or on the other side, really. The Gooner Boy on Twitter, at Ian Ramsdale, says, is there any timescale given for the potential signings that Tony Ray wants to make before the start of the Super League season, he asks? Well, I think, as you heard Tony say, he'd try and he'd have them in yesterday if he could. Could happen any time. He's working on deals. If they do go through, then great. If not, he'll have to look at other alternatives, and I think that there will be still some movement as the season starts, and possibly, I don't know, first month of the season, squads bed down. Potentially there might be people then available on loan initially. I don't know whether squads are reluctant at the moment to give too many players away. Although we'll hear from the Leeds head coach Brian McDermott on a couple of the loan signings that he's given away for this season in just a few minutes. But Tony Ray trying to do what he can to bring in extra bodies. Also, if what I've seen is true, I'm not altogether, me personally, convinced by the new Broncos shirt design. Was shown something in the last week, and well, I don't want to play it down. And it may not be actually what is the shirt design. If it is, I'm not altogether too convinced, but we'll see. Steve saying on Twitter, it's definitely not heritage colours then. Not necessarily from what I've seen, Steve. And back the Broncos on Twitter saying, does London have any sponsors? Did manage to have a few conversations with Broncos people this week. I would hope there might be some announcements. I don't know for certain, potentially in the next week or so before the season. In particular, I don't know quite how big any announcement may be or anything in terms of sponsorship or anything like that. It's something that they're working on, definitely. I can't give you anything for certain or give you anything concrete, but potentially I would have thought you may get something. They might be trying to sort something out, put it that way, before the season starts. Now, let's hear from the Leeds head coach. As we said, Broncos head up to Leeds Friday night this week for the testimonial game, another pre-season friendly, a very tough test. Leeds pretty much at full strength. It's going to be an interesting one for the Broncos, but it gave me an opportunity to have a chat with the Leeds coach, Brian McDermott. Spent over 4 years, didn't he, in the capital in the Harlequins Rugby League days. Not easy days for the London Super League side, but I thought I'd have a chat with him about how things have been. He's obviously had great success at Leeds the first 2 seasons, winning the Super League, with them having left the Harlequins Rugby League, the London Super League side. So tremendous success for Brian McDermott in the last few years, really. So I thought I'd ask him about his time in London and what he learned from that. And it's an interesting interview with him, actually. So here are the thoughts of the Leeds head coach currently, Brian McDermott.
Mac, well, it's been a good few years now with you at Leeds, having left London. It's been a pretty successful couple of years for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've enjoyed success, but that's not been without hard work, and it's not been without its challenges. It's been a really challenging last 3 years that I've had at Leeds, and obviously we've been very fortunate enough to pick up some silverware along the way, but just the job in itself is a tough job. So I'm not going to tell you it's been a fairy tale. I'll probably look back and think it's been a fairy tale when I'm old and grey, or grey. But, yeah, really enjoying my job, and we've got a big challenge ahead this year. With the forthcoming Super League coming up.
It's probably a different set of challenges than what you faced in London, but how did your time with sort of Harlequins, Broncos, London sort of affect your coaching and steer you down that route?
In a big way. We anybody who's known the plight of the London professional team over the last 30 years would know that it's had its ups and downs, and during my 4 and a bit seasons I had there, I experienced a broad spectrum of rugby league within there. We had what we would call success. We beat some teams that probably on paper we should never ever beat. We blooded some juniors, blooded a hell of a lot of juniors, and very proud to say that between myself, Phil Jones, and all the other coaches that were there, we put a bit of a blueprint in place for London juniors coming through. I know Joneses were producing London juniors for years, but to actually make that transition then to Super League level, that took some doing. I tell you, I will say, I thought some of my best coaching, and probably no matter how long I coached for, I will say some of my best coaching probably went on at London. And that's not in a case of where you lay cones on a field or any particular drill, but just how you'd manage the squad and how you talk to some individuals, and how you get some players to play above their weight, if you like. That'd be something I look back on fondly. But I also have to say as well, I think some of my worst coaching went on that in the London era as well. But I suppose you've got to take the rough with the smooth, haven't you?
Exactly. And when you look at sort of what's gone on at London recently and stuff, I mean, did you think differently about London when you left than when you joined initially?
No, not at all. Sorry. Before.
Yeah, I mean, and did your thoughts of London change? From before you arrived to when you left? Well,
London opened my eyes. The city in itself, and I know that's a bit of a northern thing to say, but to go into London, I don't think it's particularly a northern thing. I think anybody who lives outside London to then go live in London it takes some adjusting. You've got to get used to that. It's just a brilliant place, massive place, breathtaking place. I fell in love with it while I was down there. But my opinion of rugby league changed. Now, I played for Bradford Bulls for a lot of years, and then moved to Leeds as a coach and spent all my time in the north. And I felt that's where rugby league was the biggest, and it is, in terms of attendances and stature of clubs, it's, you can say it's bigger up north. But it was a very humbling moment when I got down London, because the potential that London has, it's scary. And I all of a sudden, within about 6 months of being in there, I all of a sudden viewed the north as it's got a ceiling. Now, there's lots of improvements the north can make, and there's still, that in itself is still striving for a bigger platform to play upon within the media and such. But I just knew, after being down in London for 6 months, that if the game wants to go massive, and we're talking big, it's got to be through London. It's got to be through, one big city. Now, we're really pleased that over in France, south of France, the Catalan Dragons they've really boosted and come on. But I'm still a believer in London. I still believe it can work. Rugby league in London isn't the problem. I know this is going to be a bit of a catchphrase here, but it's true. The sport in London isn't the problem. It's just a professional team that's never been quite cracked. And I think it's important we make that difference. That it would be easy just to brush off rugby league in London because of what's gone on with the professional team for the last few years. In actual fact, rugby league in London, and you've only talked to a few different people down there, such as Dan Steele or Martin Coyd, who heads up Medway Dragons. Rugby league's a great sport for Londoners to play, and it's been taken up massively.
You say that it's not yet been cracked in London. I mean, why do you think that is in terms of the first team? Because you've obviously gone on to coach a very good team in Leeds. Is it just the fact that London haven't been able to get the calibre of players yet all together in one season?
Well, if you look at probably their current head coach Tony Ray would probably be able to answer this better than me. But if you look at their when London were probably enjoyed their most success, they were the most consistent, probably the most stable they were. There wasn't the rules and regulations in place that we have now. So London, as a club, as a city, has to abide by all the rules and regulations and how we can recruit players that all the northern clubs do. And the northern clubs can breed their own players. It's easier for the northern clubs to breed their own players. Whether a Warrington player signs on a St Helens player, in actual fact, they're signing on another northern kid. Whereas while London's producing players now, and that's good, the conveyor belt's up and running, the reality is for them to produce, a 25-man squad, and out of a 25-man squad, they might have to produce maybe 20 London juniors with a smattering of northern blokes in there and a smattering of overseas players in there. I think we're a fair ways off that just yet. And since I was coach, the rules got put in place where you're only allowed, I think we were allowed 10 when I took over, but by the time I left London, we was only allowed 5 overseas players. And that means out of a 25-man squad, the other 20 have to be English. Now, you can only get so many northerners, therefore you're going to have to abuse some Londoners. And, the southern kids, we won't call them Londoners, the southern kids, while some of them have made some great stories, I don't think the conveyor belt's that strong just yet that it can produce, I don't know, anywhere between 15 and 20 London-based players. And I think simply that's just it. That it comes down to the quality of the squads. The interest in it is there. The fan base, I know the fan base is, all fans can be a bit fickle, but all the infrastructure, if you like, and all the foundations are there. But then, I know it's going to be another cliche, but you've got to win a few things before you start generating the big interest.
Absolutely. And how much do you know, or how much of an interest did you pay in their recent sort of trials and tribulations which they've been through? It's not been an easy couple of months for them. I mean, have you sort of paid an interest to it, or just been a casual observer from afar?
No, I haven't. I've paid a huge interest. It's still close to my heart, and if there's anything I can do or will do, I mean, reality is I can't do much because I'm not mega rich, and I'm not their coach, so there's not that much I can do. But in terms of,
you sent a few players on loan.
Send a few players on loan, absolutely, and that may help. But in terms of banging the drum for London, and if I can influence anybody in that regard, it does irritate me. It irks me when people write off London because of what's going on with the professional team. And then it irks me when people have an opinion on London. You know, what they would say is an educated opinion on London. And some of them probably just visit London twice a year for a weekend, and they think they understand London. And that's not even to do with the professional team down there. So, I've watched with interest. I really do feel for the staff, for the administration staff, the players, and the coaching staff. It's a turbulent time. But the biggest bloke I feel sorry for, and I just wish he could get some help, is David Hughes, who's been the stalwart of that place for a lot of years. We won't talk about the money because that's. I think David Hughes, I don't think he's bothered too much about that. David Hughes isn't bothered, whether he spends 10 quid or 10 million quid. I think what he's bothered about is that his team's successful, and it would just be a crying shame if during David Hughes' time he doesn't enjoy some success. Whatever success is, I don't know what success is, but reach the playoffs, make the top four, appear in the final. It's something like that. But the reality is, to be able to do that, you have to have a very, very good squad.
I was talking to Sean Long the other day about he came down to work with Tony Ray, and all of a sudden he said one day I just got the London thing. I saw it. I saw what it was, and I asked him if there's a way of getting that feeling, that thought to everyone else, because like you say, people do have what they would consider an educated opinion, but unless you've worked in the game, you don't really see it, I guess, as everyone else would. Is there a way of getting that message out without people having to come and have a look and see it?
Yeah, there is, and I think it's through media. I think the media's got to be the one. There'd only be a certain amount of people listening to such as me, or maybe a Sean Long or a Tony Ray. I think the media's got to have a good understanding of that. This is going to seem like I'm having a crack, or I'm trying to be controversial on purpose, but I'm not. I'm just going to state a fact. In my 4 and a bit seasons down there, Ramo, I probably talked live in person to maybe 6 journalists from rugby league journalists live. Yeah. Every other one was on the phone, and then I didn't do that much. So it's a bit of a chicken and the egg. They won't report on much because there's not much interest. They'll argue there isn't much interest and people don't read about it, but then there's not much interest because it doesn't get reported much. And there's some unbelievable stories, such as a Dave Williams, who's now playing up at London Scholars, who I told him once that he wasn't going to get a squad number. He spent 18 months training as hard as you like to get a squad number, and I told him that he wasn't going to get a squad number, and he had some tears in his eyes. As a big man, he had some tears in his eyes, mega disappointed. And it was only then I learned that he used to live in the north of London. He used to get up at 5:30 every single morning to then go to work and do an early shift at work, to then catch a bus from work to catch a train for another 2-hour journey, a 2-hour journey in the morning, for a 2-hour journey in the afternoon, late tea time, to get to training for about 6:30 with our academy, or what was the under-20s then, to then do a day, train with us, to not leave our place while 9:30, to get another 2-hour bus ride, train ride back home, and get in for 11 o'clock, and did that relentlessly, 4 or 5 times a week. And when you just hear of things like that, it humbles you. And I try and instill some of those stories and try and get some of that level of professionalism to our juniors up here. Now, I think that would make a great story. I could tell you another 1,000 of those type of stories that, people in London, the staff, the players, the administrators, all the sacrifices they make to try and make the thing work. You could make a TV programme on it. So it's there's not one answer there, Ramo. And there's a few things that would need to be addressed, but there's some more important things than others, and I think the key is to identify those and get those fixed up soon.
Well, you're certainly a great advocate for the game as well, Brian, in your current role as head coach at Leeds Rhinos. You obviously host the Broncos in a pre-season friendly testimonial game on Friday. Looking forward to, I guess it's from your point of view, it's another pre-season game, but looking forward to seeing sort of Broncos, a few faces, and seeing what the Broncos are going to offer this year.
Yeah, I am. I think it's going to be, let's not fluff about. I think it's going to be a tough season for the Broncos. But I do know the makeup of the joint. I know what Tony Ray's about. I know between the staff there, they'll come up with some wins this year, London. They'll surprise 1 or 2. And who knows, they might be able to create a story, a real story, and finish mid-table, finish playoffs. Who knows what might happen? looking forward to catching up with them. Looking forward to catching up with the likes of Steve McGee, who's been the kit man since Fulham Rugby League days. Don Fenton, who's came out of retirement, who's the football manager. So there'll be. I'm good friends with those people. They are good people as well. They are very hard-working people, and whenever you talk about London, you talk about the people, and it's not just where do they play, what kit are they wearing, what's their name. It's whenever he mentions the London professional team to me now, it's the people that are involved.
Well, Brian, thank you for the conversation. I'm sure there'll be many people who will enjoy listening to this. And again, thank you for being such a great advocate for the game of rugby league in the South in your current role. It's always great to hear your thoughts. So thanks for the chat.
No problem. Up the Broncos. See you Friday.
So that's Brian McDermott, the Leeds head coach, who will marshal his side against the Broncos on Friday in the next friendly for London Broncos. Potentially as well, Broncos having another friendly with, I think, Hemel. It's something they're trying to sort out if they can. But I've got no concrete information on that as yet. But potentially another pre-season friendly for the Broncos. And the funniest bit the other day when I did speak to Brian McDermott, I got a text from him immediately after I'd done the interview. It just said, simple, Ramo, I rambled on a bit, didn't I? So I don't know. I replied and said, well, no, I wasn't bored. So not for me. I thought it came across rather well. So you can make of it what you will. But as I said, big test for Broncos going up there on Friday. A couple of thoughts from Mark on Twitter at Ian Ramsdale, saying Mac appear to auto-renew or give 2 to 4 year contracts to 28, 32-year-olds, but have 18 to 24-year-olds on 1 year deals and left almost no foundation. He said, given that McCarthy, Scarsbrook Club and Sharp were Tony Ray signings, who's he claiming to have brought through? Who is good? Also saying Dixon and Sargentson appeared after he left and are a credit to Phil Jones on them. I think, Mark, you're right in what you say in particular with the players and the times they came through in particular. But I think what Brian McDermott was saying was that he helped instill that system in Broncos, and of course it was looked at and it started to happen with Tony Ray in his previous reign. But I think that Brian embraced that and knew, I think you've heard him say before, he knew when he came down the only way that the London Super League club was going to have a future was to keep using the youngsters. And I think that he could have come in and seen it a completely different way and gone, no, we need bigger, better players, let's spend some money and let's sign them. But I think all he's saying is that he continued a blueprint. I know he says that he put down the blueprint, and I think what he's saying is not him personally, because he credits Phil Jones for that, but says that of course he was crucial to it, which I'm sure, I think personally he was, although he's not taking all the credit, although it may have sounded like that, but I don't think particularly that's what Brian McDermott was saying. And then a Super League pod on Twitter as well. If you haven't heard from them, they sent me a message during the week asking about the coverage. But another podcast on Spreaker, which you can find, which is where I host this podcast, which you may well know or may not. You may be listening on iTunes. Either way, I'm delighted to have you along. And if you ever fancy leaving comments or reviews really on iTunes is what I'm after. Just a little sentence, what you make of the programme, or give it a star rating if you're one of the regular downloaders on iTunes. It'd be great to have. Just gets the boost the profile of the podcast, and often gets in the new and noteworthy or the top sort of charts. So it'd be good to do that if you can. If you do use iTunes, it would be very much appreciated. But another podcast to check out as well if you want more issues wider on Super League. Try the Super League pod. Now to the North Hearts Crusaders. Very successful last year, unbeaten. I've been having a chat with their head coach Colin Baker. They told me on Twitter they were getting in touch saying we've got loads of positive news to talk about, loads of things to tell you, things really happening with the North Hearts Crusaders. So I thought I'd find out what exactly was going on and talk to, as I say, their head coach Colin Baker.
Colin, well, all this comes from a couple of messages I've had on Twitter and via email as well from the club saying we've got so much good stuff to tell you. When are you going to get us on the Rugby League Down South podcast? So here you are. You've got loads of good news to tell us, have you?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. We held a colleges tournament on two Wednesdays ago now, which was very successful. We had 4 colleges, well, in fact, there were schools 4 schools put in teams to the Emerging Colleges 9-a-side competition, which was won by Leadenthorpe College over at Sawbridgeworth. So I think the Hitchin boys, Samuel Whitbread and Knights Templar School attend. So from our point of view, that was a big step forward, something we hadn't previously done. And it was nice to see the engagement from the schools, who were very enthusiastic. And I hope that's going to feed into our under-17s team that we're going to run this year in the London Junior League.
Because did we maybe talk about a year ago, I bet it was, about the new teams that you were setting up at this point last year and the extra additions that you had, and you've got, I guess, a few more this year?
Yeah, well, what we're hoping to do is expand. Well, what we are doing is we're going to expand to have under-15s and under-17s in the London Junior League, and that's in addition to our 2 open age sides that obviously we have run previously and will be running again this year.
Yeah.
So for us, that's quite a big jump. We held an open meeting just before Christmas, which we invited everyone along to who sort of had shown any interest in the Crusaders. And from that, we were able to identify another sort of 3 or 4 volunteers who have come on board to help, which has enabled us to sort of expand. Really, that's the key for us is the volunteers. We could last year we felt we could do more, but we wanted to cut our cloth accordingly. And this year we've got some more people on board, so we're able to move forward a bit more again.
And you are the North Herts Crusaders, so I mean, where are you based? Do you cover the whole of Hertfordshire? Do you try and sort of get out to the rest of the county?
Well, Ian, we wouldn't turn anybody away, that's for sure, wherever they live. We are very much, we've grown out of the Letchworth area. We're sort of very strong in terms of people from Letchworth, Hitchin and Stevenage. We've started to have people creep in from further afield, and obviously we would welcome people. But yeah, we're very much proud of being the only sporting team, I think, that represents North Hertfordshire. And that's something obviously that we're keen to develop and to expand. But yeah, people are welcome for wherever they come from.
It's a phrase that I'm going to try and get away from in the series of podcasts for this year, in terms of, more people playing the game and, the South being a great sort of place where the sport is booming. But I guess with these numbers and stuff, is Hertfordshire turning into a place that is embracing rugby league?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a mini heartland, if you like, now. We've got... obviously, Hemel have expanded into the professional ranks, St Albans, and then ourselves. So I'd like to think it's developing as a little heartland within itself. Yeah.
And I guess as well with the 3 teams that you mentioned, Hemel, yourselves, and St Albans, that area now, the fact that it's got 3 clubs shows that there is, potentially a future there, a structure, a pyramid. It's not just these odd clubs here and there, is it? There's, they're throughout the county.
That's correct, and I think I did recently have a meeting with Hemel Stags about creating a more joined-up approach, and that's something that is very embryonic, but I think it is something that certainly in principle we're all keen on to try and move forward with a pyramid structure, for want of a better word, but certainly a clearly defined pathway. I mean, certainly one of the things that we want to develop in the future would be having satellite clubs around North Hertfordshire, probably based on junior age groups, which will feed into us, and the reality being, if we have players who want to kick on and progress, that they would feed into Hemel Stags. That's very embryonic at the moment, but it is certainly something that's being talked about and something we would be keen to be involved in if it were to come to fruition.
And I think as well, that's probably where some of the southern clubs and southern regions are at an advantage over the already strongholds in the north. In the north, you do have a lot of these clubs, some of them, at Super League, at the top level, competing against each other when they're from such close geographical boundaries. Yet there is a future, hopefully, for the sport in the south to look at it, and like you say, for you to set up satellite clubs, for there to be a structure, and for you to talk to the other semi-professional side or the professional side which is in the region. And the fact that it is being built now, I think that will really benefit the sport in the future. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I think if you talk about perhaps parochialism and that can perhaps hold the sport back, I suppose. Maybe we don't have that, but then I don't know if you were asked to ask St Albans and Hemel about that. Maybe there is some. Certainly from our point of view, there isn't. But I know St Albans and Hemel have always been quite fierce rivals, so they might argue that. And certainly when I coached St Albans, Hemel Stags was always one of the big games of the year. But I think the important thing is that you're able to leave that on the field, put that to one side, and actually think, well, we are all in the same game here. We are a community in that respect in the south, and we've all got sort of the interest of pushing the game forward, I think.
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm not trying to do away with your local derbies and stuff like that and the intense rivalries that you have. Of course, that's a massive part of the sport. I just think that in terms of the only problem would come, I guess, with these things is that if every team that exists aspires to be a championship club or aspires to be a Super League club, not that people are going to have to sit back and say, we're happy just to be an amateur club and play in the Premier or play in the East Division or whatever division they're in. But there is an element of when you have the clubs at the different levels, if people are working together, that's really going to benefit the sport.
It is, and that's an interesting point. Are you by going into some sort of a pyramid type agreement? Are you effectively saying, well, we are always going to play in the Eastern Premier League? I don't know if the two things are mutually sort of exclusive. I think you can have an agreed sort of pathway in pyramid. But as clubs move forward, the dynamics will shift and relationships change as they do in any sort of form of
absolutely
business or even in life. You
look at what
I don't think you should allow it to, sort of nullify your own expectations.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at
but we're certainly quite clear of where we are at the moment, and it's one of those things that actually, in the longer run, if we're producing more and more young players who are going, and go up the pathway to championship and hopefully beyond that, at that stage, once you start producing that many players, you yourself then might be able to, if your business plan is right and everything's working off the field, actually progress yourself, and then the dynamics of the relationship can change.
It's interesting to consider where the Broncos may be with promotion, relegation and 2015 onwards if they do have a tough season as predicted this year, in terms of, like you say, where you balance yourself or where you place yourself within the pyramid and within the structure. But going forward for you, I mean, where is your future? Where is the key elements? You talk about having a colleges tournament and more teams playing in that than before. What do you think is key to you now, again, pushing on to get the message out, to get more players in to strengthen?
Two things for us. One is to expand the club downwards, if you like. So we want to keep going down. We've gone down from, we've sort of gone up a bit to 17s, but that's because of the junior league. But 17s and 15s this year, we'd like to keep expanding downwards. Under 12s, under 13s, minis, ladies, wheelchair. Those are the type of things. Very much, if you look at the Medway Dragons model of what a community club should look like. I'm a great admirer of Martin and everything that's happened at Medway. That's where we aspire to be in that respect. And I think the big thing for us is at some point in the future to be able to employ a member of staff to actually go out and to be, on a full-time basis, to be getting our message across, to getting more people engaged in the sport, playing the sport, and also, in reality, from the business side of it, sponsors, funding, to keep the club moving forward. At the moment, we're all very well-meaning amateurs with day jobs and fitting in amongst everything else. It's our passion. There's always a ceiling on what you can achieve, perhaps, when you're in that situation. So, that's the future for us, and that's certainly where we want to get to.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It sounds like you got a great plan ahead, and it's interesting that you mention about the full-time member of staff and stuff. There's one big thing, isn't there, really, that many people can't yet make a living from rugby league in the south. And I think when you start seeing that more people can do that, you're really in a position where the sport is starting to grow. It would be great to see. And one thing that I just thought on that lines, whilst you were talking as well, I mean, it's probably a question that I could ask every amateur club, and we're talking to the sport people who help out down in Hampshire. on this programme as well. But I'll ask them and I'll ask you. It just popped into my head as you were talking about the number of people and the way that you do it. How much effort does it take to run a club like this and to expand all these sides? Because, we get you on, you talk about expanding and getting more teams and going down to under 15s and 17s, and it sort of trips off the tongue, but there's a lot of work, isn't there, that goes on behind the scenes?
There is a lot of work, and I'm lucky to be involved in a club where there's some very, very motivated volunteers, and we've had a little bit of success, and I suppose that feel-good factor keeps the ball rolling, so to speak. But there are also times when things don't always go to plan, and you have to sort of negotiate those. But I think it's important that people enjoy it, because if people are not enjoying it, if you're not getting paid for it and you're not enjoying it, then you're probably going to struggle. But we all do enjoy it. It does take up a lot of our time, but that load is lightened the more people you get involved, and that's what we've found this year. We've got a couple more volunteers. We can do a little bit more, and also some of the things we were doing last year are now shared between two people, so that's lightened the load a little bit. But you're absolutely right, it takes a lot of people, and it actually takes quite a bit of money as well. And that's where sponsorship and subscriptions come in, and without those, obviously you haven't got anything. So that's really important to us. And obviously the other, I talked about the two things we were looking to do. The third one, of course, is to secure our own venue, which would, that's when you have your own venue, bricks and mortar. That's when you really can almost explode, if you like, in terms of your development.
And then finally, I guess, when does your season start? And when is it you train? Where are you? If people want to get involved.
Well, in terms of junior season, they start training this Saturday at Hitchin Rugby Union Club, 10 till 11:30 on Saturday morning. That's under 15s, which is a double age group. So that's under 14s and under 15s together. And then the under 16s and under 17s double age group has under 17s. And then the open age team we will start training at the beginning of March. So things are already moving. The off-season seems to have been incredibly short, but we're all really excited about getting going again.
Am I right in saying, where did you get to in the competition last year? You did well, didn't you, if I'm not mistaken?
We went through the season unbeaten, yeah.
I knew there was something.
We won the Cup. We won the Eastern Region Cup, and we finished top of the league, and we won the grand final, so we had a fantastic year. And then we did lose at the end of the year. We went into the Harry Jebsen, where we lost to the eventual winners, South West London Chargers. So for us, in terms of open age, that's our benchmark, if you like. In terms of success, I think it was a very successful season, yeah.
And Colin mentions there the South West London Chargers, that the only game that they lost last year as well. They go into a Challenge Cup first round game this weekend to the South West London Chargers because they won the Harry Jepson Trophy. We mentioned them in previous podcasts, but basically if you're around this weekend, then go and support the South West London Chargers. I'm hoping that a few people will send me a few messages on Twitter, send me some pictures and some updates so I can give a few retweets and stuff the weekend if you are going down there. It'd be great to see how it is, and great to have the Rugby League Down South audience supporting them. It's at Chiswick Rugby Club, which is in West London, W4. It's a 2:00 kickoff, and entrance is free. Drinks will be available in the clubhouse, so it says, and everyone is welcome to stay around after the game to help celebrate what will be a great exhibition of amateur rugby league. They're playing the Torfaen Tigers of Wales, one of the Welsh champions. So good luck to the South West London Chargers, good luck to Torfaen Tigers. And also, I think what we'll do on the Rugby League Down South programme here is that we will follow the winners of this tie and then subsequent ties all the way through to the final. So we will support, I suppose we probably would edge towards the South West London Chargers this week, but whoever wins the tie in this battle of the Tier 4 teams, we will go on to support throughout the competition, and we'll take up the winner of each subsequent tie all the way through to the final to see whether we can have a winner at the end of the competition. But best of luck to both sides at the weekend, and if you are going along, which unfortunately I can't be there, then I'm sure you hopefully will have a great time. Enjoy it. So to another of our amateur sides, as I'm just looking down my script here, onto the Hampshire Youth Rugby League Amateur Association. Amateur Association. The launch of the association, the newest regional rugby league competition to affiliate to the RFL. Interesting to hear about the structure which they're using, which we don't touch on in particular in the interview, but basically they're trying to form a youth division like the London Junior League, a monthly commitment to a central venue with as many teams as they can really generate. They're hoping for a number of teams to have a good competition. It sounds like a really good way of building the youth setup in Hampshire. And I know that Darren Pugsley of the RFL has been really driving things forward if he can, to make sure that this happens. So credit to him and credit to the people at Southampton Spitfires and those involved to set up the Hampshire Youth Rugby League Association. And so we can hear from the man involved. Andy Moore tells us a little bit more about what's going on.
It's scheduled to start in spring, running all the way through the summer, and obviously regional to sort of Hampshire and the surrounding area, I guess, covers it best.
So what are you looking for? Are you looking for youth teams to take part?
Yeah, essentially we're trying to get the whole thing off the ground, starting with under 12s age groups, purely and simply because it leaves it open for teams to move forward into the under 12s sort of the year after, and we can fill the void behind them. So the idea is to step up the age groups that we provide for over sort of 2 or 3 seasons, and really just sort of assess it as we go, depending on how successful it is. Depends on what direction we take it in after that. But yeah, that's the premise at the outset.
Now, we've spoken before about the Southampton Spitfires, which you're involved in. How closely linked is Hampshire Youth Rugby League to Southampton Spitfires?
Well, it's very closely linked in that it's the same sort of people running the two organisations. But it's, I guess Southampton Spitfires have spawned the project, but it isn't as such a Southampton Spitfires-centric project. And then what we're trying to do is actually stimulate some growth from other teams and stimulate some new teams in the area, which obviously has the added benefit that it makes competition for our age groups and so on, so that we don't have to keep travelling into London, which we don't see as being sustainable over time, not at every age group anyway. But obviously the two items are linked, but constitutionally, financially, completely separate entities. And the idea with the Youth League is really that those youth teams that develop, hopefully we'll get one near Portsmouth, and those kids get old enough to go and play for Seahawks. The kids that are closer to Southampton come and play for Spitfires. If we can get teams, to the north, Basing, Stoke, those areas, that maybe over time that will force the issue with the adult teams and so on. So it isn't just about, can we create a big pool of players for Spitfires? It's much more development oriented than that for the game as a whole.
I was talking to the North Herts Crusaders. I was going to say North Wales Crusaders. I wasn't talking to them. I was talking to the North Herts Crusaders, who were saying that they benefit from having, Hemel and St Albans and themselves all in the same area because they can start to grow. And I guess when you're looking at competitions like the younger setup, if you can have more teams around within your area to, like you say, cut that travel time, that's really going to be a big beneficial thing for building the sport.
Yeah, I've said this a few times now, but the catalyst for the whole project was really a conversation that our coaching coordinator Glenn Timon and I had. I think it was fielded either the far side of London or the near side of Kent, which was really saying actually the amount of money that we spend sending teams, all the age groups up to open age, out this far. Could we not actually feasibly run something small and local and use the money better to maybe just generate a bit of competition around us and see how that goes? Well, we let that idea sort of germinate for probably a good 18 months, 2 years really, where we were taking teams into London, and just assessing whether or not it was actually a viable thing. As a throwaway comment 2 years ago, we've decided to really take the plunge with it and just see, where it goes. I guess we've always got the London Junior League to kind of fall back on if it does, not pan out the way that we want it to. But the idea really is to try and move teams through the age groups, and then when they need a step up in competitiveness for their own development, and I suppose part of the performance pathway aspect, that London is there as probably a greater competition to go into, maybe at 15, 16.
And I mentioned as well earlier in the podcast that I want to stop sort of banging the drum saying more and more people are playing the sport in the south and stuff, because I think the evidence is there really for all to see. But I guess the more teams and the more competitions outside of London, I started off doing a London Rugby League programme. It's now spread out to be Rugby League down south, because there are sort of pockets of these little areas. I guess that's the key, isn't it? It's taking the sport, spreading it either out of London or spreading it into other areas, and building up these smaller competitions, getting the young people in, because eventually that's what will lead to a better, bigger, stronger structure in the south.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we see it as kind of joining the dots, and where we are, those dots are probably more spread out than maybe in London or the sort of South Wales, Bristol sort of area. In the middle, you've kind of got this bunch of people that are not out of place, but we don't sit easily in either camp. Southampton and Portsmouth are very close together, but they're not very close to London, really. Swindon isn't far from Southampton, but they're not really all that close to Sussex, and we've all played in the same division before. And above us, you've got Oxford, and there are teams that have collapsed in the past. Gosport and Fern Vikings, Basingstoke Beaks Beasts, Fleet Mustangs are all names that rugby league people may recognise, but they've just gone by the by. I think that if we can join up the dots in the middle a little bit and start creating something of our own, actually maybe some of those ideas that have germinated and sort of boomed and bust over time, maybe actually we will sort of rekindle some of that and make it a little bit more sustainable. But that's a long-term view, and in the short term, what we're really just trying to do is make the project work from the word go, however small it might start off, and build it sustainably, sensibly, and without overstretching anybody.
And we mentioned as well, like you say, overstretching people, the amount of effort and work and dedication of the people that put on these projects and are sort of behind them, and the driving force, many, if not most, if not all of them, unpaid involuntary roles. How easy do you find running something like this? Because it isn't difficult, because you look at the way that the Broncos, the biggest team within the South, that sort of look at marketing and how to run their own sport and their own team. It can't be easy. I mean, do you find it difficult? Is there certain barriers to overcome, or do you have it pretty much plain sailing and you get pretty much what you want?
I guess it depends on how much you love the game, really. Glenn and I are probably self-confessed rugby league nutcases. My other half certainly thinks I am. So it's a part of it. I guess part of the answer comes down to dedication. It's how much you actually want it to succeed. And then the rest is a mixture of luck and the support network that you've got. Glenn and I are pretty lucky in that we've got a good core of volunteers around Spitfires. Some of those are going to be helping us with Hampshire Youth projects. But realistically, it isn't easy. I don't see it as a battle against rugby union or anything like that. I think it's purely a case of making your product stand on its own two legs. If you're constantly trying to compete against something else, then really you're looking too hard at the neighbours and not really concentrating on your own game enough. So we don't try and out-compete any particular sport or other activity in the area. We just really try and get our game together as what we're doing at any one time. And to a greater or lesser extent, I think we do all right, really. easier then.
And so finally, just give us the details. If there's anyone who is thinking they're in their area, they might be able to get a team, they have half a team, they're looking for extra help, where do they go, where do they find out more?
The best thing for them to do is to contact us through the league's website, which it's not an easy one to remember, the website address. So,
I guess if they just search for Hampshire Youth Rugby League Association, they'll find.
Yeah, it has started to pop up on the Google search now, but it's HAMPSHIREYOUTH RL.pitchhero.com. If it's easier to remember Southampton Spitfires, Google that. There's a link on the main page there as well. But the main thing is to get in touch one way or the other with us. We try to keep the format so that it's as easy as possible for people to join. If you're one guy and you've got a coaching qualification, or you want to get a coaching qualification, and you think you can get a team off the ground, then give us a call, because that is literally all we need as a starting point, and we can really help you out from there. We've got good support from the RFL in terms of making it work, and we're getting people on coaching courses to support their own ideas really as well. So one example of that is a team that we're about to sort of announce, which is going to be in the Winchester area. That's about all I'm going to say at this point, to be fair to them. But they are literally setting up as it's a guy who's got a coaching qualification, got some ideas, wants to do his own thing, and suddenly there's a league in his area that he thinks he can join and be a contributing part of. So it's really just making it as easy as possible for teams to join. So we'd love to hear from anybody out there that's willing to give it a bit of a crack, really.
So that's Andy Moore talking of the Hampshire Youth Rugby League Association, as they call it on their website, the newest regional rugby league competition to affiliate with the RFL. I do like the monthly commitment at a central venue. Be great to find out how it goes and any teams that affiliate with it. We'll try and keep our eye on that. This season, although as ever it's always difficult to keep across everything that goes on in the region of Rugby League down south, because to be fair, there's so much that goes on these days. Finally, just one thing to mention: the Scholars community sending me a tweet at Ian Ramsdale saying Junior Registration Day for the Scholars, Saturday 1st of Feb, this Saturday 10 a.m. in N22. They're looking for under 7s all the way up to under 20s, all new and existing players welcome. So if you're in the North London area, get up there from 10 o'clock. You might want to get over to West London for the South West London Chargers for 2 o'clock if you can, to support them as well. But thank you very much for listening to another episode of Rugby League Down South. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. We're back very soon with another one.